the best first manga chapter / episode of all time. Now, when I ask you about this question, you probably think about a couple series. Berserk, Attack on Titan, some others like that. But what if I told you that I think that tokyoghoul has the greatest first chapter / episode / intro I've ever read in any piece of fiction? You'd probably call me biased. And you know what? You can call me biased because I might be a little biased, but I feel like this first chapter of tokyoghoul is really, and I mean really, unappreciated. And I'm here to bring you that masterpiece today and tell you exactly why it's one of the greatest first chapters I ever read. Please make sure to like and subscribe to this video, comment down in your comments below, and please tell me what I could do better in my videos, if I could improve on a couple stuff, and give me some of the things you'd like to see in the future. But yeah, let's get right into this. Now, what I want to talk about is what I think makes a good first chapter a good first chapter. I feel like it should do a good job of introducing you to the characters involved in that first chapter, a good job of introducing you to the world of that chapter, and just introducing you into the premise of the chapter. Another thing I do think it should do is set up a lot of things in the future in the first chapter. Because you know what that does to the reader? It makes them go back and read a couple of chapters before in case they miss things. And it'll set the tone of what type of series that your series actually is. It's a series where people actually have to pay attention to every line and actually see what is going on. Because if they don't pay attention, just skim over, some of the dialogue, they'll probably just think it's lengthy dialogue with no substance inside, with no meaning. But the truth is that tokyoghoul's dialogue is very important to how much you're going to enjoy the series. Now, the chapter starts off with a panel saying, humans are thought to be at the top of the food chain, but there are beings who hunt them as food, and it shows someone trying to run away as a ghoul eats them. We cut back to a cafe where two individuals are watching the TV research community about ghouls. They basically say the last killing that we've seen in a previous page happened on the building in Takeda Street. Now, remember, small things like this is why I think tokyoghoul's first chapter is really, really good. Because I'll tell you after. Then we meet our main character, Ken Kaneki, in which his friend points out the first thing they says to him is, I bet you'd be eaten up before you knew it, Kaneki, since you're such a nerdy weakling, always reading those weird books. So we also get a character trait with Kaneki, and then he likes to read, and so we also get a little bit of foreshadowing from his friend Hide. They then begin to talk more about ghouls, as they say ghouls could hide amongst us disguised as humans. They could be closer than we think. Disguised as humans, huh? And it pans away to a panel of Old Man Yoshimura and Toka, which is obviously foreshadowing to them both being ghouls. Hide then says, wait a second, I bet you're a ghoul, Kaneki. Kaneki says, yeah, right. If I was a ghoul, you'd be dead already. Foreshadowing the fact that Hide supposedly, quote-unquote, dies at the end of tokyoghoul. And then after that, we see, even if they pass as humans, they're just human-shaped, right? In which Kaneki and Hide draw their variations of what they think is a ghoul. Kaneki draws this weird type of animal, and Hide draws a person and says, it's you, Kaneki. And so that is more foreshadowing on each side, where if you didn't notice, this thing that Kaneki draws is actually a drawing of a panel of dragon all the way in the end of Re, which is actually kind of amazing. The fact that Isha could foreshadow all the way to the end of that already to this point. And so Hide draws Kaneki, as we know that's foreshadowing because Kaneki already turned into a ghoul. But yeah, his friend then says enough about ghouls and then begins to talk about another ghoul. Unironically, we don't know this is a ghoul in the first time of reading it, so I would say that's foreshadowing, but I'd say it's just irony because we know that they're about to talk about another ghoul. He then asks Kaneki if that girl over there is the cute girl that Kaneki's been thinking about. And so he looks at Toka. Now, Toka in this panel is drawn with no eyes, and we do know that Toka is a ghoul. So, I guess Hide's just a fucking detective or some shit, I don't know. Hide then calls Toka over as the waitress she is and asks her if she has a boyfriend because he's trying to shoot his shot. Toka then gets scared and runs away. Now, you're probably wondering why the hell did she run away and why the hell did she get scared? She's a waitress, that's her job, to answer customers, I mean, in real life setting, if someone did that to you, you'd probably be pretty uncomfortable, which I'd say Toka was. But we get a close-up of Toka's eyes and sweat beating down her face. You can't be that scared of someone just telling you, oh yeah, I want to ask you out, you know what I'm saying? So I think that this is also foreshadowing to Toka being a ghoul, because she literally has a human dangling right in front of her, touching her so closely. So, you know what I'm saying? As any normal ghoul, you would be tempted, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, she runs away and gets out of that situation. Just after that, though, Rize walks in to the cafe shop. This is the first time we see Rize. Kaneki then says, "Oh shit, it's her." He puts his head down, you know, because he's already been characterized as a wimp, nerdy loser. But yeah, after seeing Rize's looks, Hide immediately tells Kaneki, "Hey bro, just give up." Like any good friend would do, you know what I'm saying? He just tells his friend, "Give up, she's not for you. You're not bagging that." Kaneki then explains that the reason why he likes her so much is that every time their eyes meet, she smiles. And so after she smiles, she also reads one of his favorite books, the Book of the Black Goat Egg. Hida then calls Kaneki creepy and then says, "Well, I got to see the girl you were talking about," and makes his exit. After we find out that Rize and Kaneki read from the same author, Sensei Katsuki, who also happens to be Kaneki's favorite author, and the Book of the Black Goat's Egg is her 7th book, keep that in mind, Kaneki gives us a little synopsis about the Black Goat's Egg. The book is about a cold-blooded female serial killer called the Black Goat and her only son. Although her son is disgusted with his mother's sickness, he eventually has to acknowledge the same cruel impulses growing inside of him. Wow. Kaneki really foreshadows his own character arc in this first chapter, in which we see how back in Algiri Tree arc, Kaneki is forced to accept, you know what I'm saying, his ghoul side, accept the cruel urges going inside of him. On top of that, there's more foreshadowing, so even the end of fucking Tokyo Ghoul, where Kaneki says he's not going to become like his mother, but ends up becoming way more like his mother than he was before, you know what I'm saying? All self-sacrificial and shit. So yeah, this is just amazing foreshadowing on Ishida's part, and I noticed this now. I didn't notice this the first time I read it, but if you think about it, the Black Goat's Egg, in which this character arc happens in the manga, is Sensei Katsuki's 7th book. You know when I'm a Ghoul happens? It happens in the 7th volume of Tokyo Ghoul. Now that's just brilliant foreshadowing, if you tell me. Anyway, moving on. Then Rize ends up walking towards Kaneki unexpectedly and ends up bumping into his book. His book drops, and so Rize sees that Kaneki is reading the same book as her, The Black Goat's Egg, in which they initiate a conversation about it. Kaneki ends up geeking out over Sensei Katsuki and says, yes, I love Sensei Katsuki. And he likes mysteries, and so then he thinks to himself in his head that he dropped the book at the perfect moment. Then we get a close-up panel of Toka just staring at the two of them talking, ... Ishida is an author that doesn't waste pages. So just having this Toka drawing here tells us even more foreshadowing that something's up. If Toka, we already know, is a ghoul in the future, so she knows that Rize is a ghoul. What this is giving me is that Toka knows Kaneki's fucked. Kaneki then tells Hide about his book date with Rize and keeps calling it the best day of his life, the best date of his life, everything like that. But in reality, I feel like all these speech holes are here on purpose to emphasize how this is going to be so ironic in a couple pages, you know what I mean? I feel like Ishida wouldn't just put these speech bubbles here for no fucking reason, you know what I'm saying? He's making it completely obvious that Kaneki's really stoked about this. He keeps talking about how this is going to be the best thing ever for him. And so it actually, we already know, it turns out to be some of the worst shit ever for him. But still, it's really ironic, and all these speech bubbles here just point out irony. Then we cut to a scene where Kaneki's reading a book at home and thinking to himself, all lovey-birdie and shit. But then the TV cuts on and says a similar incident with a ghoul takes place on Shirakami Street. And then he also says that the composition of the body dead matches the same composition of the body dead at Takeda Street, which means this is the same ghoul going around killing these people. Then we cut to the date between Rize and Kaneki, in which they're talking about more Sensei Katsuki. Kaneki asks her what's her best recommendation of Sensei Katsuki's work, and Rize says her first one, which is Oh Dear Kafka. If you guys don't know, Oh Dear Kafka is a direct reference to Kafka, but the Metamorphosis, the real life book, and it's basically about a human being that has to deal with the effects that he's being turned into an insect, you know what I mean? And he basically has to learn to live with that fact and accept who he is. Which sounds pretty familiar to if it does, you know what I mean? This first volume of Tokyo Ghoul is just a mirror of Oh Dear Kafka, where Kaneki, instead of having to accept that he's an insect, has to accept that he's a ghoul, in which it's just amazing foreshadowing on Ishida's end. He tells you so much shit without telling you anything. You know what I mean? If you do your research, yeah, you will find this, but if you don't, you're just sitting around wondering that this is just pointless dialogue. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is just amazing foreshadowing again. They go to talk anymore, and Kaneki realizes that Rize isn't eating anything, which is even more foreshadowing, but at this point we don't know that ghouls can't eat normal human food. So yeah, Rize again starts blushing and ends up going to the washroom. But Kaneki says she's not bad at all, and then wonders, oh, maybe it's just a girl thing. We then cut to them walking home, and Kaneki asks Rize what her blood type is, which is such a weird question to ask someone on a date. I don't know why the fuck you would ask someone like that. But Kaneki says his blood type's AB, and well, Rize's blood type is also AB. This is going to be also important later on. But then Kaneki ends up talking to Rize a little bit more and realizes, oh wow, this is going well. More irony as he passes right by Toka again. Now it shows that Isha didn't waste a panel in the cafe where Toka actually knows about Rize, and so something is up, you know what I'm saying? Toka again looks back at them and says, oh, well, nothing's up. And so we cut back to Kaneki and Rize. Rize tells Kaneki that she lives a bit past Takeda Building Street, which is an extreme red flag. An extreme red flag. Basically, if you don't remember, how I told you remember Takeda Building Street, the first page of like Tokyo Ghoul basically, where it says the first ghoul murder of the series goes down. Rize is now telling Kaneki that she lives a bit past that building where the ghoul attacks are happening, which is just super sus. If I was Kaneki, I would have said right there, I'm not going. But since Kaneki is a naive kid that doesn't even know if ghouls exist, you know what I'm saying? He's kind of like, just like, oh, well, whatever, fuck it, I'll do it for you. You know what I'm saying? He does not know the horrors that he is, you know, about to witness. But yeah, Kaneki agrees to walk her home and starts talking about Hide, and so they start making jokes. And then Kaneki shows Rize a drawing of what he thinks a ghoul should look like. And then we know the story, how Rize ends up tricking Kaneki to go this alleyway and then takes a large chomp out of him. Kaneki then just like, what the hell? She bit me, what the fuck? Rize just goes absolutely senile and just, you know, ends up completely destroying Kaneki. In which I'm going to have a callback all the way to a scene in the cafe where Hide first sees Rize and he says, if she took off her glasses, she'd be too much for you. In this scene, Rize takes off her glasses, so it is that could be classified as foreshadowing to what, you know, she actually is as well, or it could just be something Hide was saying that ended up coming true. But yeah, she ends up hunting Kaneki until a lot of people tried to point out that Rize could have killed Kaneki in one full swoop if she wanted to, which is also foreshadowing to her character and how she keeps saying, excite me. If we get a Rize backstory in the future where basically we find out that she's just bored with life, and so that's why she just kills and kills and kills. Now, the fact that she's saying excite me is so that she can cure her boredom. She could have killed Kaneki, but she kills just for excitement, you know what I mean? It's gonna be killing him right away, but would not excite her at all, you know what I'm saying? She's just bored with life, and so she wants the most excitement out of every kill. So that's why she keeps telling Kaneki to excite her, and that's why she keeps playing with him. And so when she gouges Kaneki's insides out, she's about to kill him. But then steel beams come crashing down on Rize, and they absolutely crush her. But I want to point out this little dialogue that Rize says before she dies. She's looking upwards, which we know is foreshadowing because Furta was the one that dropped these beams. But she looks upwards and says, why? Why me? As if she's asking someone something. And so I think she sees Furta up there and asks him, why would you kill me? Because if you remember, he's the one that had her escape, and she probably thought they were on good terms at this point. But yeah, Rize dies, and so we get cut back to the hospital where Kaneki gets knocked out, and the hospital is actually doing surgery on him. Kaneki ends up waking up in the hospital and asks where he is, in which he hears the doctors talking about how they're going to transplant Rize's organs inside of him. The reason why this will work is because they have the same blood type. So again, it's another instance of just a random piece of dialogue that someone could easily read over and pass up, coming back in the future as foreshadowing. This is why Tokyo Ghoul is such a great manga, and this is exactly why this first chapter is a masterpiece. Then we get Kaneki's famous quote on how he says, I'm not the protagonist of a book or anything, I'm just a normal college student who likes to read. But if I were to write a book with me as the main character, it will most certainly be a tragedy, which is the last page in this beautiful chapter of Suishiro work. Anyways, now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the chapter. As we can clearly see, we get to see a perspective in this first chapter on how people who haven't seen ghouls, people like Kaneki, people like Hide, would often estimate what the fuck ghouls look like. They don't even know what ghouls look like. And it also puts us into the world where, as if we were in the world, we wouldn't even know what ghouls would be. They could be anywhere, as we know with Toka, Yoshimura, you know what I'm saying? The person you're serving, the person next to you, your friend, could all be a ghoul, you know what I'm saying? So it throws you into that world where you're just like, what the fuck? Like, what do I do? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's amazing. Like, I like that premise a lot. And so they introduce you to that very, very early on. It also gives you tons of character traits about Kaneki, about Hide, how he's so spunky, you know. Ao and Kaneki's more like nerdy and like less like more reserved. So they have a little dynamic going on there. We also get to see Toka and shit. But yeah, I feel like it introduces you to the world and the characters very, very well. Now let's talk about the foreshadowing. Yeah, now the foreshadowing. I've already talked about the foreshadowing plenty throughout reading the actual first chapter, but I'm just going to say one more thing. Tokyo Ghoul is one of the only manga I see with this much detail behind every single text bubble, behind every speech, behind every panel. There's actually a meaning to it. You know what I mean? Unlike some mangas where they would just glass over shit like this and not bring it back in the future, but Tokyo Ghoul actually does this. Almost every page in this chapter contributes to something in the story, which is actually something I haven't seen done before in another manga. Like, I haven't seen that done in another manga except for maybe Attack on Titan. Those are the only two mangas that I see can do this extraordinary level of writing, and I love that. And so that's why I think this manga chapter is the greatest first chapter I've ever seen in all of fiction, in everything I've read. Anyways, that does it for why I think this chapter is one of the best first chapters of all time. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, leave your comments down below, and please, bro, have a good day. I hope I was able to change your perspective.